My name is Ethan Cole, and this is the story of how one arrogant sentence from our manager destroyed trust, shattered a team, and pushed one of the smartest men I've ever known, my coworker and friend Daniel Reed, to walk out with nothing more than a 10-second goodbye. This isn't just a story about quitting a job. It's about betrayal. It's about respect, or rather the lack of it. And it's about how a single careless remark can unravel everything. So buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you is a ride filled with tension, quiet revenge, and poetic justice. I had been working as a contractor at a large engineering firm for several months. Now, for those who haven't lived the life of a contractor, let me explain. You're never truly part of the family. On paper, they'll say things like, "This contract is expected to last 12 months, but may be terminated at the discretion of the company at any time. It may also be extended if business needs require it." Sounds fair, right? But what that really means is, we can cut you loose whenever we feel like it. No warning, no safety net. For contractors like me, this was the norm. We accepted it because it was part of the deal, but deep down we all knew one thing. We were disposable. Still, I worked hard. I gave my best. I believed that if I proved my worth, I'd be respected. I told myself loyalty mattered. I was wrong. Our team had 10 people, all contractors. Every one of us lived under the same cloud of uncertainty. And above us, just one full-time employee, our so-called sponsor. His name was Mark Stanton. Let me paint a picture of Mark. He wasn't evil, not exactly, but he was cold, detached, a numbers guy. The kind of man who didn't see employees, he saw resources. To him, people weren't individuals with families, hopes, and lives. We were lines on a budget report. At first, I thought I could tolerate him. He wasn't friendly, but he wasn't cruel either. But then came the day that changed everything. It was a quiet afternoon, around 4 p.m. The office had that sluggish, end-of-day energy. I was reviewing some project updates when Mark called me into his office. "Ethan," he said flatly, "I need you to do something for me." I nodded, expecting some technical task, but then his words cut through the air like a knife. "I need you to let 3 people go." I froze. "What? You mean fire them?" He nodded as if it were nothing more than deleting a file. "Yes, tell them today's their last day." Effective immediately, I felt my stomach drop. "Mark, I'm not a manager. I'm a contractor, just like them." "But," he shrugged, "doesn't matter. You're leading the team day to day. You'll handle it." I wanted to argue. I wanted to scream. But I also knew I had no power. I was trapped. So reluctantly, I did as he asked. At 4:05 p.m., I walked to the desks of 3 people I considered friends. Their names were Lisa, David, and Samir. I'll never forget the look in their eyes when I told them. Shock, hurt, confusion. Lisa whispered, "Why today? Why no warning?" David shook his head in disbelief. Samir just packed in silence, his jaw tight. I had no answer for them, because truthfully, I was just as powerless. By 4:30, they were gone. 3 empty desks, 3 lives upended without warning. And as I sat there, my heart heavy, I knew something had cracked in our team. That evening, I stayed late with another contractor, my friend Daniel Reed. Daniel was brilliant, the kind of guy who saw patterns no one else noticed. Half our systems ran because of him. Without Daniel, the company would stumble. Together, we approached Mark. We wanted to understand. "Mark," Daniel asked carefully, "why didn't we give them any notice? Don't you think they deserved at least a week?" Mark smiled, actually smiled, and with a brightness that felt almost cruel, he said, "That's why we hire contractors. So we can cut them loose at a moment's notice, whenever we want." The words hung in the air like poison. I felt my chest tighten. He had just told us plainly that we were nothing. Expendable. Tools to be used and discarded. I glanced at Daniel. His face was unreadable, but I knew something had shifted inside him. He didn't argue. He didn't shout. He just nodded. But in his silence, I sensed it. Mark had made a mistake. A mistake that would come back to haunt him. After that day, Daniel was different. Not outwardly. He still joked with me at lunch. He still worked hard. But behind his calm demeanor, he was planning. Quietly, he began interviewing at other companies. He didn't tell anyone, except me. And when he landed a new job, he accepted. His start date was just a few weeks away. Every day until then, he kept working as if nothing had changed. He coded, designed, and built systems that only he understood. Our sponsor thought everything was normal. But Daniel? Daniel was already preparing his exit. And then the day came. It was a Friday. The office was buzzing with the usual chatter. People talked about weekend plans. Deadlines loomed, but spirits were light. Daniel worked like always, calm, focused. No one suspected a thing. Then at exactly 5 p.m., he stood up. I watched as he unplugged his laptop, his mouse, his docking station. He carried them over to Mark's desk, and with the same bright tone Mark had once used, Daniel said, "Hey, thanks for everything." "Today's my last day," Mark froze. "What, you're leaving? Now?" Daniel just smiled. "Yes, thanks again." And then, without another word, he walked out. At the same time, he hit send on a short email to the team. "Today was my last day. Thank you, and best of luck." That was it. 10 seconds notice. And with that single move, Daniel left behind a storm. The next week was a disaster. Daniel's projects? Half finished. His code? Complex with little documentation. His designs? Brilliant, but locked in his mind alone. Mark tried to call him, no answer. He emailed, no reply. Daniel was gone. Executives demanded updates. Deadlines were missed. Clients grew frustrated, and slowly, painfully, we realized just how much of our success had relied on Daniel. It took us an entire month to piece together his work. A month of long nights, stressful meetings, and endless frustration. And through it all, I couldn't help but think, this didn't have to happen. If Mark had treated Daniel with respect, if he hadn't bragged about how disposable we were, Daniel would have given 2 weeks' notice. He would have handed off his work properly. He would have left as a friend, not as a ghost. But because of one careless sentence, Mark had lost his best worker in the most brutal way possible. Weeks later, I found myself reflecting. I thought about Lisa, David, and Samir, let go without warning. I thought about Daniel, walking out with 10 seconds notice. And I thought about myself, still stuck in a job where respect was optional. I realized something important that day. Respect isn't about contracts. It isn't about titles. It isn't about who's full-time and who's not. It's about people. And when you treat people like they're disposable, don't be surprised when they prove you right, by walking away when you need them most. That was the day I learned. Never underestimate the quiet revenge of someone you think is powerless. Daniel didn't raise his voice. He didn't start a fight. He simply walked away. And in doing so, he left behind a lesson more powerful than any words could teach. So, what do you think? Was Daniel right to leave the way he did? Or should he have given notice? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because trust me, I've got plenty more stories of betrayal, revenge, and poetic justice to tell.